My name is Beeple. I am from the United States, from Wisconsin, and I learned design just by watching tutorials online and trying to teach myself. I went to school for computer science, not any sort of graphic design stuff, and so I kind of started making short films and little kind of abstract clips using the computer in my spare time, and then kind of taught myself from there different programs. So the name Beeple comes from, it's a stuffed animal that is from the 80s that um, it if you cover its eyes, it sort of makes this like giggling sound. It kind of responds to light with sound. So that kind of sort of interplay between light and sound is something that's fairly prevalent in my work. So that's kind of where the toy came from. It's not, you can buy them on eBay for like 15, $20. They're not like anything special if you just search Beeple toy. Synchronizing music, I don't know. I mean, I've just always been interested in stuff, in music video stuff, early on stuff from like Chris Cunningham, and Michelle Gondry. That was just stuff that was just very super synced, the audio and music that just, it feels when the two aren't in sync, it just doesn't, something doesn't seem right to me. It just seems like the audio should mirror the video and vice versa, and that just, I've always been drawn to work like that. I started working from home. I had a day job for the probably about 10 or 11 years out of college. And then I started working from home when I started doing more freelance stuff. And to be honest, where we live, there are no studios that do like motion design. There are some like graphic design, small studios, but none that do motion design. So it was more just like to work on the stuff that I wanted to. I kind of didn't really have a huge choice there. Yeah, it seems to work pretty good working remote. I have uh, occasionally worked sort of on site, very occasionally, and that was a fun experience, just being able to like work a little closer with people. But yeah, for the most part, I think working remotely seems to seems to work good. So typical day, I usually get up pretty early, somewhere around 5 o'clock in the morning, and then go and like work out, usually like running, and then I'll work on client work, sort of a kind of a mix of personal stuff and client stuff, sort of throughout the day, and then towards the end of the day, you know, eat and supper and play with the kids and stuff, and then I'll usually work for a couple more hours. Usually that's when I do like my everyday, and finishing up any sort of client stuff, and then I'm usually done around 9:30. So it's pretty long days, um, usually. So I started that was actually when I started it. It was a project that I saw from Tom Judd, who is an illustrator I think he's in the UK. And he did a picture every day, in like a sketch a day in like a notebook. And so I saw that and saw the like progression over the year, and I thought that was a really cool project and a really cool idea. And I wanted to get better at drawing. So the first year of the Everydays is actually me trying to get better at drawing. And so from there, I saw that it was a uh, good way to learn stuff and stick with something and sort of incrementally improve on something. So I tried to use that to teach myself Cinema 4D, and then since then I've done a couple other things. But that's kind of where it came from. It wasn't my idea. Tom Judd he's the one that, people can blame for this. So usually, with the everydays, I'll spend somewhere around like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. It depends on how much time I have that day. It seems like if I have it, or how much ambition I have that day, I guess too. Sometimes if I'm doing something that is more complex and it seems to be sort of going better, then I'll spend a little more time on it versus something if it kind of, some days it just doesn't seem like it's working. It's kind of like no matter how much time I spend on this, it's going to be a pile of crap. So it's sort of like those days I won't spend quite as much time on it, or sometimes I'll struggle and still turn out with a pile of crap like 4 hours later. Yeah.
Even
When
you
it's
think it's a crap.
That's most days. I would say, most days it's sort of like I run out of time and it's like, this is just embarrassing. Um, Embarrassing or borderline embarrassing, I would say probably uh, a good percentage of the days. But it's like, I have no more time that day, and I'm not gonna not publish it just because I don't like it. I mean, I think it would be very hard to do something that you like every single day. I mean, especially when you're only spending a couple hours and start to finish. So it's sort of like, if that's your mindset going in, you're going to stop really quickly when it's like, oh, this isn't good, because it's not going to be good. Nobody can just sit down and like produce something every single day that they're like super happy with. If you're super happy with something that you can produce in like 3 hours every single day, then you're setting your standards way too low. So I think there's no way around that. Sometimes they're inspired by things that are going on. Not that often, just because like not that many different things happen in the normal day to day. It's sort of like the days are pretty much get up, work, play with the kids for a little bit, work more, go to bed. Like there's not that many like crazy things happening to be inspired by. So usually it's more inspired by, a lot of times other people's work that I'll see on the internet that's like, really cool, or some technique or a tutorial or something like that. So it's usually not so inspired by life, I guess. I've got a number of sites that I look at for sort of inspiration. I've got, Pinterest boards with sort of just as I'm browsing sites, I'll look through and, pin things that's like, oh, here's an idea for an everyday kind of down the road. Just like it might be just a specific shape or just a color scheme or just a like composition, how it's sort of like composed. And so usually the everydays kind of end up a mix of a sort of number of different, like maybe it's this sort of subject in this sort of composition. It's kind of usually a mix of a bunch of different sort of ideas. But yeah, like Behance, Tumblr, Instagram, ArtStation is another one that I don't think that many people in the sort of motion design, graphic design go to. It's more like concept art, but that's another one that I've been going to a lot lately, just because it's got a very different style than sort of graphic designy type things. I think it's just because I've been doing it a lot, and I think it's like a kind of a numbers game in a way, in terms of the more work you put out, you're kind of, I feel like it's sort of a crapshoot. It's kind of like luck if you make something that sort of other people respond to. So I think if you put out a lot of stuff, it's like buying a lot of like lottery tickets. You're bound to get lucky a little more often. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. Honestly, I don't really do any music now. I used to back a while ago, and I kind of was like, I'm just not good at this. I need to like stop and let professional people do it. But for a while, I was kind of using some software to make music, and it was all just kind of, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I don't have I when I went to school and like high school, I was like a played the drums, and not well, like by any stretch of the imagination. So I never learned like notes, and I could honestly like barely read music. That I don't know how I wasn't like I was terrible. So yeah, my musical knowledge is quite low. I think it was kind of in college. Like, I wasn't honestly in high school. I took we had like a bunch of art classes that you could take in high school, and the first one you had to take was sort of like basic design or something like that. That was just like a sort of very general art class. And then I took sculpture after that. And they had a graphic design class at the school, and I was like, that is so stupid. I was just like, that is just seemed like the dumbest thing. I think it was because they were just making like logos and stuff, and that has never like making like identities or very like sort of simple shapes that are very like every single line counts, and it's very much just a simple little thing, but it needs to be super polished. Like, that sort of graphic design has never really sort of appealed to me, I guess, and that's kind of what they were doing. But that was really the last sort of art class that I've taken, and then I guess just in college, just screwing around with stuff and seeing weird stuff. I had one friend who sort of, and I don't know where he was like seeing this stuff, but was kind of exposing me to sort of more weird abstract things through the internet, and I think that was fairly influential in terms of just shaping the type of things that I was interested in. I've been listening to a lot of rap lately. Trying to think what things I was listening. So, Run the Jewels. I've been listening to that. Also, like, I mean, it kind of varies throughout the day. I'll usually start out with like super minimal stuff. And actually, there's this website, Noisely, that has like just like a bubbling brook. You can like mix sounds like white noise or like leaves rustling and like stuff like that. So usually in the morning, I'll start out with that. That's like not even music, just kind of just like abstract noise, and then it'll kind of like ramp up to like full on like gangster rap at the end of the night. Um, so, but yeah, otherwise stuff like Radiohead or Bon Iver or James Blake, Subtract I really like, and then like some EDM stuff like Skrillex or Zed kind of, and stuff like that, I guess. I don't really per se have a dream job. Um, I think just working on projects that interest me, being able to work on my own stuff more, I think would probably be a dream job. There's not really, to be honest, like a certain client or a certain existing project that it's sort of like, oh man, if I could work with this person or that, on that thing, that it would, be this dream thing. And there's cool things that cool clients and cool projects that have come up, over the last couple of years, but I wouldn't necessarily consider any of them sort of like the dream gig. I think just working on my own stuff as much as I can is kind of what I would ideally like to do. Usually, I've been doing a lot of commercial stuff lately, so I would say um, right now, yeah, most of the day is spent doing sort of concert visuals and some concept work for like an augmented reality company and stuff like that. So that takes up the majority of the day at the moment. And then sometimes I'll kind of have, uh, you know, a week or two here or there where I haven't taken on as much client work, but not lately. Not as much as I'd like, but yeah, I mean, we've got some time to travel. We've got another trip planned later this year, kind of a bigger trip. But we've got two young kids, so it's a little tougher to travel. I mean, sometimes even if we could, it's sort of like, do we want to? Just because it's like, again, they're quite young, and time change and whatnot is can be a real pain. But yeah, we definitely, and I think as they're getting older, we're gonna travel more and more and take them on stuff. So that's definitely exciting. They just got their passports like a week ago, so that was exciting. No, I don't shoot that much live footage just because I don't know that much. Well, I don't know anything about it, to be honest. And I don't have like lights and stuff like that. I don't have like a lot of the equipment. It is something that I would like to, just because I, see things or stuff like that that, is shot well, or just interesting stuff. So there is, I do have some ideas for things that I think would be cool live action. Um, but yeah, I haven't shot that much stuff. There's kind of two main reasons with that. One is I, benefit so much from people who have, uh, shared tutorials and stuff like that. And there's tons of people sharing tutorials. Um, so I think, I don't feel like me doing a tutorial per se would be. I mean, it's just not something that I'm that interested in doing. So I think sharing the project files is, one kind of small thing I can do to sort of give back a little bit. Um, and then I think the other thing is it's good sort of promotion, I guess, in terms of just being able to, get exposure from it. But yeah, I think those are kind of the two main reasons. The other thing is the project files are like kind of useless to me after they're done. I'm never gonna go back to them. So it's sort of like I've already rendered out a video from them. So it's kind of like this totally useless thing. So it doesn't really to me seem like this, I don't know, sort of terribly charitable thing that I'm giving out these project files, because they don't have any value to me after I've rendered out the like actual product from them. Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen. I mean, there will occasionally be things where I see people and it's kind of like, would rather not have my name attached to that. But for the most part, um, I haven't really come across anything that people have done with it that is stupid or makes me mad or something like that. I think it's really cool when I see people take the project files and use them for stuff, and it doesn't feel like it feels like it's like their thing. It doesn't feel like it's like, oh, that's my thing that they took the project files and did this or that. It feels like the project files kind of exist as their own thing, and somebody took that thing and made something with it. So it feels like something that I'm fairly sort of detached from, I guess. I mean, Transparent Machines was more a response to people. I would see people on like Facebook posting about like privacy stuff and being like, well, oh, the NSA, blah blah blah, is recording our things, and it's like you're posting that, complaining about privacy on Facebook. Like it's like I don't. You can't be that concerned about privacy if you're on Facebook posting things. Like they're just selling your information. So it really, I think a lot of people took it as like a anti-Facebook video, but it was actually more like just trying to get people to realize that it's like Facebook and Google and these things that you use and take advantage, like that's the price. The price is privacy. And honestly, I have no problem with Facebook or Google. Like I've kind of, I guess, accepted that price, but it was more just kind of trying to help people sort of recognize the that there is no privacy with these things, and that's just how it is. And you can either accept that or not, but if you want to use them, that's what it is. So in terms of zero day, yeah, that was just kind of about more like cyber terrorism and Stuxnet and just sort of countries engaging in warfare that I think will be more and more prevalent in the future, in terms of just kind of messing with each other in terms of whether it be the election hacking type thing that Russia did, or China sort of messing with United States companies and companies all over the world in terms of stealing proprietary data. I think that stuff is just going to continue and sort of accelerate in the future. Yeah, usually just in terms of trying to find ideas, I'll use like Tumblr or like Behance or Instagram, and sort of um, usually I'll spend about roughly like 5 to 10 minutes sort of looking through pieces, just kind of trying to get a idea of just kind of a starting point. I feel like just getting that initial sort of idea helps kind of guide the things. If I just go into Cinema 4D with like no idea at all, then the piece will usually take longer, and I'll kind of fumble around a lot more versus when I have even like a small starting idea or small like direction to move towards. That usually helps a lot. Most of the time, the final piece will turn out very different than that initial direction, but just having sort of a very concise, or very, usually it's not that concise, very sort of broad direction to move in helps. So most of the stuff is done using Cinema 4D and then rendered with Octane at the moment. I've been kind of somewhat interested in learning Houdini and Arnold lately, but it's just kind of, to be honest, haven't had time to really sort of dig into them too much. No, I've actually never used a render farm. I think part of it is just because a lot of the stuff, either if I'm working on like a bigger project, the rendering will be done by the like sort of production house that I'm working with on like some of the bigger stuff, especially because they'll be sometimes the resolutions that they need are just absolutely like ridiculous lately. So it's definitely something that they would need to handle. But then for my stuff, since it's using Octane and it's using GPU, there's not really that many sort of like GPU rendering farm things. So just have 3 computers that I use to kind of render stuff, and sometimes it takes long. Actually, all of the computers are rendering stuff at home right now, and I can kind of remote in and check on it and make sure everything's good. But yeah, I try and keep them rendering as much as possible. Since it's Octane uses GPUs, they're not actually that crazy because the GPUs that I found are the best sort of value for the money are these GTX 780 Ti's, which is actually a fairly old card. I think it's probably about 4 years old now. But for the price and the power, it seems like they're the best deal. And you can get them for like $200 on eBay now. So I just have been buying a bunch of those, and you can kind of, since they're only $200, you can just beat the hell out of them and just run them super hot. And if it, dies, then it dies. But it seems like the versus the 1080s or the like 980s too, the price is way more versus the like power you get out of it. So the specs of them are not really actually that impressive. So each of the computers has 3 cards in it. So a lot of the client work that I work on is concert visuals. There's one sort of studio in or sort of production house in LA that I've done a lot of stuff through. Everybody from Justin Bieber to Katy Perry, Nicki Minaj, One Direction, that Psy, uh, Gangnam Style or whatever guy. Um, so I've been working with them for years, and I've done a lot of the bigger clients that I've done have been through them. And then I've also done some stuff for Zed and some other sort of electronic acts that are looking for more stuff that's a little more closer to the style of stuff that I do. And then lately I've done some work on like a feature film, like concept art. And then also some augmented reality, like concept stuff that has been really interesting. That's definitely a area that I'm, very interested in. Yeah, so I've got pretty decent amount of work coming in where I think I could, possibly create a studio and some bigger projects that I usually turn down just because, I'm one person and I haven't really like hired people. It just doesn't seem, to be honest, that like I don't. The idea of having to like manage people and sort of organize people and hold people accountable for doing work, that just doesn't seem that interesting to me personally. I like uh, you know designing stuff more than sort of managing people. It's just something that I'm not that experienced in, and not that I think I like projects that maybe are a little smaller, or that I have a very contained piece of. That's just the kind of thing that sort of appeals to me at the moment. So we're kind of jerks, and we don't ever talk to our neighbors. I don't actually know our neighbors. So we have a house, and our neighbors on one side, I've never spoken, and they've lived there like 2 years now. I've never spoken to them at all. So I have no idea like what they do, their names, anything. On the other side, I know their names, their first name, and actually I can remember their last name now, but I don't know what they do. Yeah, we don't know them at all. So it's, yeah, our neighbors definitely. I don't know them. They don't know me. It's definitely very. So yeah, but even a lot of my friends actually don't really like they don't know that much about like the stuff that I am working on or like projects, and I don't think they've seen a lot of the like even like short films or stuff that I've done. Just because again, it's not really, we're kind of friends. It's a lot of it is people that I like grew up with, and they're not designers, so it's kind of like this stuff is not interesting to them. It's kind of like, oh cool, Mike, whatever, but it's not their thing. So it's just kind of, and I do have some sort of designer friends, not that live in Wisconsin, but that live in LA or whatever, that obviously have seen this stuff and kind of have a better understanding of the work that I've done. But yeah, the people that I'm like friends with in Wisconsin, or that I've like grown up with, most of them really, it's very like they just know I'm a graphic designer. That's it. I try to. I try to respond to all the people who, take the time to email me, because, I appreciate that. But to be honest, I've been kind of failing lately at responding to everything. Um, but yeah, I don't do probably as good of a job as I should or could do in terms of sort of interacting and responding to people. Just because I don't know, I mean, it's not the greatest excuse, but I just have so much like stuff to do in terms of client work and personal work. And I think a lot of people would rather see, or I don't know. I mean, I guess if people email me, they would rather I respond to their email. So I guess I won't say that, but I don't know. I just don't make as much time as I feel like maybe I should for responding to people and being better about that. Yeah, so all of the client work that I've done has come from the like personal work that I put out. I don't have like a real, and I don't have pretty much any sort of client work on my like website or anything like that. So it's the only stuff that people can see. The people who've like hired me is the like personal work. So that's been pretty much the sole way that I've gotten work from people. I think the main reason is just because I already feel like I'm like spamming the crap out of people with like putting out, between VJ clips and everydays and stuff. I already feel like, I'm kind of, people are already probably somewhat annoyed. But I think the other thing is, a lot of the projects like the Justin Bieber or Katy Perry or whatever, those I'm just like one small part of like a bigger team. They don't really feel like my project to share, to be honest. It feels more like that's like, if somebody was going to share that, it should be like the production company that I work with. Like that's like their project. I was just kind of like a tiny piece of it. So it doesn't feel like it's my thing that to share. It feels like if somebody should be sharing it, it's kind of like they should be sharing it. Patience, I guess, that just sticking with it and things will kind of come. That it takes a long time to learn new things, and sort of build up a roster of clients and stuff like that. But if you stick with it, those things will come, and that it's not going to happen overnight, and you just need to like put in the time. There's no sort of shortcut or sort of way you can get around just putting in a lot of time working. I think that's kind of the only thing there is to it. Yeah, I would say there's with with client stuff. Yeah, anytime I'm working with a new client for the first time, there's definitely sort of a learning curve in terms of what their expectations are, how they like working. So I tend not to be honest, take on a huge amount of new clients. I would rather work with clients that have a little more established relationship, just because I don't like learning that stuff about a client. I would rather just work with somebody who I'm like friends with, and we have a little bit more of a, sort of rapport. Um, and in terms of like personal stuff, it's the beginning of a project is always tough, getting that sort of momentum, and sort of for like longer projects like a short film or something like that. Um, it's always a little bit tough, just because I usually don't have a very well defined idea of what I'm gonna do going in. It's not like, oh, this is exactly what I'm gonna do. It's gonna be this film about blah blah blah, and here's the whole like idea. It's usually kind of like fumbling through it to sort of like gain, I don't know, some sort of momentum in terms of like an idea or something that seems uh, viable, I guess. I don't have that clear of a definition. I feel like it's one of those things where you sort of know it when you see it, at least for me, I guess. And I feel like it's kind of this cross between, I mean, graphic design and like animation. It's something that, and I think it's fairly broad in terms of it can encompass obviously sort of live action stuff, and it can encompass more traditional animated stuff. So I think it's a very, again, at least to me, broad term that you sort of know it when you see it, I guess. I think I'm influenced by things that are, popular, or things that, um, a lot of people are doing, just because I see those things. And, if it's something that is seems cool to me, then it definitely influences my work. Um, but I guess I don't really spend uh, that much time like really thinking about specific style trends. I mean, again, I think I'm influenced by them, but I think it's not something that I spend that much time focusing on, just because I'm have a hard enough time focusing on the things that I'm doing versus you know the things that everybody else is doing in terms of a certain style or this or that. I think I would like to take on less client work, um, and be able to spend more time, either not working as much, or, well, not working as much for one, and just be able to work on my own personal projects a little more. That would definitely be a goal for the next couple years here. Um, yeah. Not really, to be honest. I don't feel like I have. I think there's going to be more. I think the tools are just going to get, more and more powerful in terms of what one person can do. I think it's the amount of the things that one person can do with one or just a couple computers now versus 10 years ago. It's just like mind-boggling. It was just like, wow, this would have taken a huge team of people to do. And I think there's so many sort of resources out there in terms of, whether it be tutorials or, materials or, Turbo Squid with 3D models or stuff like that, that you can sort of cobble together something that's, very sort of sophisticated and polished and stuff like that with, a very small team or, one person. And I think that's just gonna, continue to happen, that you'll just have these sort of insane tools at your disposal that will just create more and more sophisticated work. But beyond that, to be honest, don't really know. I'm kind of feel like I'm along for the ride as much as anybody else. Honestly, I don't really have any like mentors per se. Just because where I work or where I live, there aren't a ton of people doing this. So and I've never worked at like a like studio with like a bunch of other designers. So I don't really have people that have kind of sort of guided me career wise or like technically or artistically in terms of somebody I would really consider a mentor. I don't really feel like my work changed that much. Just because I think they're so young that it's not. I mean, I'll show them things, but I'll show Emma, and I mean, she's 3. She'll kind of get it a little, but it's not really something that I can kind of like show them and they can, I don't want to say appreciate, but understand even, really. So I don't really think it's had that much impact on my work, to be honest. I was not a Trump supporter, but I know a lot of people, my parents included, who are Trump supporters. And the area where we live is a small, rural area, and the majority of people are Trump supporters. So I have a lot of people, but then I also have, so the people that I have, friends from where I live in Wisconsin, a lot of them are Trump supporters, but then all of the other like graphic designer friends and like LA people, like they're like obviously super, super liberal. So I get both sides. Like I definitely get both sides, and I'm 100%, not for Trump. So, but I definitely, am not these people who, a lot of people I think were like, I don't know a single person who's a Trump supporter. That's not me. I definitely know many people who are Trump supporters. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was super shocked. It was just like totally thought, oh, no way this moron's gonna win. Like this is like, you know, absolutely in the bag. And then it was just like, I don't think I'll ever forget that night sitting there watching it. And it was just like, oh, it's funny. Doesn't really seem like Florida's kind of like. I was like, oh, well, it's Florida. Well, she's got these other states, and I was like, oh, doesn't have those other states either. And it was just like, and my friends who were like liberal, like, what the hell's going on, freaking out. And then my other friends who are like conservative, they're like, giving me shit. And so it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, and now it's just been like too much. And recently I don't know if that's like a thing that people do here, but kind of like, and we're not like Catholic or anything, but for Lent, we kind of like people in the United States, or I don't know if it's everybody, but sometimes we'll kind of like give up something for Lent, sort of like a sacrifice or something. And we kind of, even though we're not Catholic, sort of have done that for the last few years, kind of more of like a just trying to life improvement sort of thing. So we've given up news, which has been very interesting to like, not see anything. Because before it was like I would watch news constantly, just like CNN was constantly on, and it was just too much. So honestly, it's been really nice, like being taken a step back from that whole thing, but I don't know. I hope it'll be fine, but I have no idea. It seems very like still like he's a freaking president. Like it's so unbelievable. It's just messed up. Not really. No, there's no sort of motion design scene in Appleton, really, even at least that I know of in like Wisconsin at all. The Wisconsin is a state. Um, so yeah, it's definitely very weird coming to things like this where people have sort of seen my work and know about the stuff, because yeah, that's not my everyday sort of experience. It's very much feels like sort of just putting the work out into this sort of void, and then kind of not having a huge amount of feedback from there.